Congrats, new grads! Welcome to the real world with an unemployment check? It's a strange job market where some young college grads are paying their student loans with their unemployment checks, and more than half of college grads are working at Dunkin' Donuts or Macy's. And this underemployment is why so many people get angry when you hear that unemployment is at 3.9%, which historically is some of the lowest unemployment we've ever seen, which means according to the data, we have one of the strongest job markets in the history of America. But so many people are struggling to get a good job. And it's not just new grads. We have people in the workforce that are also struggling to find new careers or to find a career because of this unique job market that we're in. So for the sake of time, let's jump right into things because I want to go over two things in this video. Number one is I want to lay the foundation of what's happening in the job market in America today. And then number two, even more importantly, as an employer, I want to go over the three things that if you do these three things, you are going to skyrocket your chances to landing a good job, and not just a good job, your dream job, but you got to understand how to do these three things. So let's jump right in, and all I ask from you is if you could give me a nice thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in America, there are 1.25 job openings for every unemployed person in America today. Now, the reason I want you to understand this is because I want you to compare it to March 2022. Because back in March 2022, 2 years ago, there were 2 job openings for every unemployed person in America today, which means that just over the last couple of years, the job market has become a whole lot tighter. But not just that, let's compare it to pre-pandemic numbers. Because if we go back to March 2019, the year before the pandemic, back then we had again 1.25 job openings for every unemployed person in America today. Yet the job market today in 2024 feels a whole lot different than the job market in 2019. And the reason for that goes back to what I just talked about in the beginning of this video, which is that a lot of Americans are underemployed, not unemployed. And according to the Wall Street Journal, more than half of college grads in America today are underemployed. What does that mean exactly? That 52% of graduates with only a bachelor's degree end up underemployed a year after getting their diploma. That is, they work in jobs that don't typically require a college degree. And 10 years later, after college, the number drops to only 45%. We're all told that if you want to become successful, you got to do good in school, that way you can get to a good college. If you get to a good college, then you're going to be able to land a good job. But about half of college graduates, 10 years after college, are still working at jobs that are not using these degrees. What are these jobs? We'll take a look. Fast food, retail, and other high school level jobs. And what that means is that finding a good job in 2024 is a lot more difficult than it was back in 2022 when there were more jobs out there. And it's also more difficult back in 2019 when, according to the data, it was the same number of open jobs out there, but people were not finding that same difficulty today. Not to mention the fact that many entry-level jobs require 3 to 5 years of experience, wage growth has been falling across the United States, and companies have been ramping up layoffs to reduce their costs and increase productivity. Now, while all of this sounds like bad news, which I understand it is, there are still ways for you to win in this job market, land your dream job, and make a lot of money if you know how to go about it the right way. And unfortunately, I can tell you from experience as an employer who's hired multiple people, that most people, the vast majority of people, even if you graduated from an Ivy League school, because I see Ivy League candidates making these same mistakes. I don't care where you went to school or if you didn't go to school. If you understand how to do these three things, it will skyrocket your chances to landing a good job and landing a real career. And that means number one is you got to understand how to demonstrate your real skills. Number two, you got to understand and how to demonstrate real experience. And number three is you got to give a real application. Now, everything here requires you to be real, and I'm going to be real with you here. So some of the things that I say are going to sound harsh, but it's the reality. So let me start by talking about number one, which is understanding what it means to have real skills. If I'm advertising a job opening for a writer or a social media manager or a project manager, and then we get these applications, and most applications are going to come in with people with very general skills. They're going to be advertising this college degree with this very general skill that I graduated in sociology, I graduated with psychology, I graduated with philosophy. Do you want to know where that application goes? Let me just show you. That application goes right here into the trash. So this is where I want you to do something a little bit different, because what we've seen happen through hundreds of applications that I've seen is that people, when they apply for jobs, they do kind of like a shotgun approach. I want a job. I want a good paying job. And so I'm going to apply to pretty much every good paying job out there. And hopefully I'm going to land a job. And most of the times, if not every time, you're never going to get anywhere. So this is where what I want you to do is reverse engineer this. I want you to think about what career that you want. And that means number one, is it something that you can actually excel in? Is it something that you're going to enjoy? And number three, is it something that you have a skill in? And I also want you to think about the income. Is it an income that you're going to be happy with? Because a lot of times people think about, oh, I would love to do this thing. I would love to be a dance teacher, but then you realize that it's not going to be able to pay your bills. So now, once you figure out what this career is and if it's going to pay you enough, now you got to reverse engineer that. And the first thing you have to understand is, do you have the skills to get this career? Now you might say, but Jaspreet, I don't have the skills to be a data scientist. I don't want to go back to college. You don't have to go back to college. And even if you didn't go to college, you don't have to go to college if you don't want to. But there are ways for you to get these real skills. Yes, it's going to take some time. Yeah, it might take some money, but this can completely change the trajectory if you can demonstrate a straight line of this career is what I want to do, and these are the skills that I want to do, and they align. Because what most people are trying to do is they're talking from Pluto. I'm here in Pluto. I have the skill in psychology, sociology, and something that is irrelevant to this job that you have. But you should hire me because I can learn on the job. Employers don't want to pay you to learn on the job. They want you to know how to do the job before you get there. They want you to have the skills. And if you're competing against somebody who already has the skills, who do you think is going to get the job? So now, if you want this career, you figure out what this career is, something that you want to do, something that's going to pay well enough. Now what you need is the skills to get there. Now, if your degree did not give you those skills, if you have a general studies degree and that's not going to show you the skills to get this type of job, you're going to have to do something about that. And thankfully, there are a lot of platforms on the internet that can help you now do something to get that skill for an affordable price. For example, our sponsor CourseCareers has a bunch of courses that can help you get a good career and get a certification at an affordable price. So if you want to learn more about that and see how you can get a free course, I got that link for you down in the description below. But this is where what you got to do is you got to figure out, do you have real skills that align with this career that you want to do? Because when you're demonstrating your skills, you got to show your boss that you have the skills to be able to succeed and elevate this role. They don't want people to come in and just do this role. They want people to come in and elevate this role. And if you have the skills, you're going to already have a real shot at getting that position. Which brings me to number two, which is, do you have real experience? Now, in order for you to understand this, I want you to put yourself in a potential employer's shoes. If they're thinking about hiring somebody to fill a role, whether it's a project manager, a data scientist, a data analyst, it doesn't matter what type of position it is, a tech person, I want you to think, what type of employee do they want? Do they want an A player or do they want an average person? Well, what do you think? They're going to want an A player. So when they're going through your application, they're going to be looking for who is an A player. And in today's job market, when a company puts out a job, they're probably going to get dozens, if not hundreds of applications, depending on what the position is. So now, when they're looking at who can fit this role, what they're going to be looking for is who can come in and be an A player and take this position to the next level. Because companies are kind of like sports teams. They want to win. At least most companies do. Some companies that don't, well, they're going to end up failing as it is. But the companies that want to win, they're going to want A players. Not B players, not C players, but A players. A players aren't just people who got A's. You don't have to get A's to be an A player. But what you have to demonstrate is this, number one, skill, but now your experience to be an A player. Now, how do you do that? Especially if you're thinking about getting a new career that you've never done before. And this is where you have to demonstrate your hustle. I know this is a lot of work leading up to this, but if you put in the work for a few months, you're going to change the trajectory of your entire career for the rest of your life because you put in these few months right now. You've learned the skills. Maybe you went through a certification and you learned how to do something else and you got a certification behind your name now. Now what you got to do is you got to be able to actually go out and present this, because guess what? Now, yeah, you're going to be a little bit better than most people, but we got to get you to the top of the application list. How do you go from that top half to the top 10%? And that's going to be through your real experience. Because guess what? Maybe you go out and get a certification, you still don't have any experience. And this experience is what's going to put you in the top 10%. Now, how do you get that experience if you don't got a job? And there are a few ways you can do this. You can consider going out and getting a free internship for a little while, even if it's just for a little while. That way you can show your initiative that you just wanted to go out and apply your knowledge. If you don't want to do that, the other thing that you can do is you can go out and actually do it yourself. Maybe you start doing data analytics or some sort of project management for something that you can get involved with, or for something that you can create, just so you can demonstrate your passion and your experience that you've actually done it. Because sometimes people will say, how can I get experience if I don't have a job? That will never land you a job. You have to show how you can get the experience even if you don't have a job, because employers want the experience. And so maybe that means you're gonna have to be creative and figure out how you can demonstrate this experience. Because if you want to get into the top 10% of applications, you have to have experience, even if it's for an entry-level job. But now, guess what? When you have this experience and you can demonstrate that experience, you'll be able to jump up and even go beyond the entry-level jobs, because you're showing that hustle and that self-initiative and that drive, because you are willing to put in the work, versus most people is they just want to do that getting by. And no employers want an employee who is just there trying to get by. And if that's what you want, well, then everything that I'm saying is just going to go that's going to go right here, into the garbage. But if you want to get that job, you got to show that you're willing to put in the drive. That way now you can accelerate in your career and start making a whole lot more money, which then brings me to number 3. If you want to get to the top 1% of applications. Okay, listen to me here. This is probably the easiest thing that you can do, but it pulls me apart when I see people don't do this, because most people do not do this. They don't submit a real application. I have gotten applications from people that graduated from Ivy League schools that do not know how to submit a basic application. Now I get it. People are following the shotgun approach. You're just applying to everything that you can get. But here's what I want you to do. Once you have the skills, you show this is the career, this is my skills, and I have the experience. Now you're gonna be up here. Now to get right here, to get in the top 1%, you got to do a real application, which means you got to actually do some research on the company and then look at the job posting. Because once you start applying for these higher income careers, because that's what you're going to be able to do once you have this. We're not talking about the medium income. We're getting into the higher income careers now. What you got to do is actually apply the way they want you to apply. And so now when you read the job description, they might have you submit some things in order to apply. Do that, but actually care about the things that you do. What most people are doing is they're doing this quantity approach. You're trying to apply to everything that you can get. Now we're doing a quality approach. You're going to apply to less positions, but they're going to be much more quality positions and much more quality applications. So now, when you're going to apply, read the job posting, see what they want you to do, and do it with care. That's part number 1. Part number 2 is when you submit your resume, make sure your resume is aligned with what this position is. This one is so funny because I'll see people applying for writing positions, and then in their resume, they will have these completely abstract things that I'm looking for a career in film, applying for a writing position. You know where that's gonna end up? You're gonna end up right here in the trash. Make sure your resume is aligned with the position that you're applying for. If you are submitting a cover letter, make sure it is aligned with what you're applying for. And then once you get on an interview, before you get on, research the company. If you don't know what the company is, look it up. Spend some time on their website, read about it on Google, look at their social media, look at their LinkedIn, look at the people that are going to be interviewing you. Spend some time doing that and know the name of the company. It has happened multiple times where somebody from my team has gotten on an interview with somebody else and they don't even know the name of the company. Learn what the company is about, and then, this is the key, okay? You've put in the work. Once you do an application, once you do one of these interviews, I want you to email the person that interviewed you, thank them for their time, make it customized, and talk about what happened in the interview and why you're excited for the position. I feel like when I was in college, and even in high school, people talked about doing this. But very few people are actually doing this. And so now when you're comparing two applicants who are strong, they have the skills, they have some experience, what are you going to have to push somebody over the edge? It is that culture of somebody who actually cares, who wants to give that customer service, who wants to give that personality that, hey, I care enough to send you an email. I did my research about the company. I'm showing passion in what you're doing, and I want to be a part of this team. That's what a real application is showing passion for the position and the company that you want to be a part of. And that means doing the research of the company, doing the application the right way, and sending follow-up emails. If you're going through multiple rounds of interviews, send an email to every interviewer in every round of the interview. That will show your passion. Now again, this is not going to guarantee it, but I can guarantee that if you do these three things, you start investing in your skills, maybe you get a certification, you start investing in your experience, and now you put in a real application, you're going to put yourself to the top of the list. And now, as you start going through your applications, not only are you going to see that you have better job opportunities, but you're also going to have much more competitive interviews, much more competitive applications because you did it the real way, not the fake way. The reason why so many people are looking forward to this concept of retirement is because they hate what they do. I don't like this job. I don't like my career. I don't feel satisfied. I'm not making enough money. Hopefully when I retire, I'll finally have freedom. I'll be able to travel. I'll be able to do all these nice things. What ends up happening to a lot of people is if you're living this miserable time working, you end up having a miserable retirement as well.